Executive. May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Sorry. Motion to open
Yeah, you just said.
to public. May I have a second? All in favor? Thank you. Welcome to this evening's Board of Education meeting. Notice of this regular meeting of the Pitman Board of Education was advertised in the South Jersey Times, posted at Borough Hall, a copy thereof delivered to all Pitman schools to be posted, and posted on the district's website. Further notice was posted and filed as required by law, stating that the board would meet in closed session at 7 p.m. in the Pitman High School Media Center. The president shall entertain any objections with supporting reasons to the conduct of this meeting on the grounds that it violates the Open Public Meetings Act. Seeing none, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Rose, will you please call roll?
Miller,
Here.
Papalardo. Here. Grossman.
Here.
Higby Iono.
Here.
Farrell.
Here.
Pote.
Here.
Bolton.
Here.
Crispin.
Here.
All here.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Crispin.
Well, as we know, this is one of the nicer things we get to do as a Board of Education as administration. That's to honor some of the great work that's being done in our schools by both our staff and our students, highlighted by our student and staff spotlight tonight. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our principal over at Pitman Elementary School, Ms. Carolyn Mason, to do the introductions. Along with her sidekick there, Mr. Chris Morris.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Board of Education. So every year, each school in the Pitman School District selects a staff spotlight. So we are really excited this year, our year of transition, our year of change. Mr. Morris and I had a lengthy discussion about this. We have many amazing staff members, but there was one particularly this year that really we had to publicly recognize, and that is Mr. Thomas Cox, our daytime custodian. So come on up as I talk about you. Is this on? No. I can talk loud. Okay. We are proud to announce our 2023 staff spotlight of our new Pitman Elementary School, Mr. Thomas Cox. Thomas serves as our daytime custodian. He is the first staff member at the school, responsible for many things that make our school function smoothly throughout the day. Thomas was an integral part of the consolidation of Kindle and Walls and the successful opening of Pitman Elementary School. He worked tirelessly throughout the summer, helping clean, move, and prepare the building for staff and students. Thomas attacks each task with confidence and determination, making sure he crosses his T's and dots his I's. He takes a lot of pride in his work, and people notice. There is not a day that goes by that a staff member at Pitman Elementary mentions his name along with a compliment on how he went out of his way to help them. Thomas is always on call with his walkie-talkie, whether he likes it or not, and is very responsive. When we call him for a job, he promptly responds, "Thomas on radio." He then listens carefully to the requests and responds promptly, "Copy." I am confident and I am always sure that the message was received and the task will be accomplished right. I think we all know that custodians are one of the unsung heroes of a school building. They do not often get the recognition they deserve, but they are an important piece of the puzzle. We are proud to have Thomas as our PES staff spotlight to recognize his outstanding dedication to our school and community. Congratulations.
I have the pleasure of announcing our Board of Education Panther Awards for Pitman Elementary School for our first year, 2023. It's always been a pleasure when we see the shirts to see established 2023. That's something I didn't think that I would see in my time. Each of our grade level teams nominated one student who is new to the Pitman community. We are honored and proud to celebrate the following students for their 2023 Panther Award. These students represent all the characteristics that we model and practice, such as respect, responsibility, and citizenship. We welcome these new students to the Pitman community and to our elementary school family. So from grade 2, we'd like to bring up Oliver Kuba. Come on up, Oliver. We have a second graders. Lead the way. May I shake your hand? And then we'll say some nice things about you, okay? We collected kind words from each of the teachers who knows each of our students the best, and this is what we heard about Oliver. Patience, kindness, and willingness to help others. Oliver is a new addition to our second grade family. He has wonderful manners and is always willing to help a friend in need. Oliver loves to eat lunch with his teacher and is the first one to step in when a classmate requires help or assistance. He is a sweet boy with a big heart. We are so happy to have Oliver in our class this year. Bring some more friends and get some photos. We can do them one at a time. In grade 3, we'd like to honor Mato Crankshaw. Congratulations, Matteo. Matteo was nominated by the 3rd grade team. He is hardworking and helpful with his peers and teachers, compassionate and empathetic. He has a positive attitude towards his school and is willing to tackle any task that comes his way. We are so happy he has joined our Pitman family. Congratulations, Matteo. In 4th grade, we have Alisa Medica. Lisa is a legacy student for us. Is that true? Do you know what that means? No. Well, there's one honest person in this room. A legacy student means that your parents were also students in the same school. The 4th grade team is excited to select Lisa for the Panther Award. Lisa is a model student who takes pride in all of her work. She goes above and beyond to meticulously complete every assignment. She consistently has a positive attitude and exhibits exemplary behavior. Lisa is kind and empathetic towards her classmates and teachers, often going out of her way to help someone who is struggling or feeling down, and always greeting everyone with a kind smile. That's it. Lisa's positivity and impressive work ethic make her well-deserving of this recognition, and we can't imagine our class without her. We are so glad she came to Pitman this year and are very proud to have her part of our school community. Congratulations, Lisa. For 5th grade, we are celebrating Adeline Brown. Did I get it right? Adeline. I'm sorry, Adeline. Adeline has made a great addition to our classroom community. Her ability to follow rules and encourage others to do the same makes her a role model to her peers. She has a great voice, which makes her stories a joy to read. Congratulations. And finally, we are honoring Finn Clemens from 6th grade. We'll shake first this time. Keep getting distracted. Finn joined the PES community in late September and wasted no time settling in and making a name for himself. He picked up on the 6th grade rotation with ease and established himself as a force in the classroom. He is strong in all of his academic subjects, always turning in beautiful, quality work on time. Finn is very quiet, but when he talks, it's worth the listen. He is well-spoken, wise, and articulate. Finn is always listening. He knows that learning comes through listening as much as anything else, and he is always engaged in what we are doing in class. Finn is friendly and kind, always willing to work with everyone and anyone. He is hardworking, steadfast, and determined. The 6th grade team is proud to have Finn as part of our class and knows that the future is for the taking. We are excited to be part of his journey to lifelong success, both in and out of the classroom. Congratulations, Finn.
We could give him one more round of applause. And if we could have the students, Mr. Cox, come in front of the
Banner.
yes, thank you. And the Board of Education as well, please.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
We'll take one for you. Separate.
Yeah, behind them, yeah. Yeah, maybe up,
Here,
no,
let's
step
go.
out.
All these women are like, no, no, no.
All right, you guys get. Yeah.
Let's see that, Steve. Right? Good job. Oh, right here.
Oh, wait, Mr. Cox, wait, guys, come on back. Mr. Cox, could you join us? Come on, I apologize. Bring it all as one. Yes, please, sorry. Here, Becca, scoot down just a little. Mr. Cox, you come this way. Right here. How's that? All right? All right.
1, 2, 3. Thanks a lot.
Good job.
Becky, don't put me, please. Don't put, I'm like a wrecking ball, I swear to God.
We're going to go ahead and get restarted. This is going to bring us to our first public comment. Pitman Public School Board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. This is the first of 2 public comments we will have tonight. The first public hearing is on agenda items only. This is public comment and not a dialogue between the board and the public. You have 3 minutes to speak, and it's your opportunity to comment or ask questions. In accordance with Board Policy Number 0167, we ask that you state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable. To be recognized to speak, please stand behind the podium located to my left and speak clearly into the microphone. See no one? Mrs. Rose, do we have any correspondence?
We do not.
Okay, it's going to bring us to meeting minutes. I will now move to accept a motion the minutes of the Pitman Board of Education as held on the dates listed below are approved as printed and reading dispensed with. May I have a second?
Second, Papalardo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Okay. It's going to bring us on to our president's report. So one of the ongoing conversations that we're having is regarding the Student Representative School Improvement Project. I sent everyone a drafted copy of the criteria. It's just a rough outline. I'd like everyone to take an opportunity to review it. If there's any notes that you'd like to provide back, our Representative Mazzola is also going to review it and see if she has any feedback. And I just asked that at the end of the year, she tell us, was this helpful or was it not helpful, or is the budget realistic to be able to do something impactful? So if everybody could take a peek and give me any feedback that you have, that'd be great. In last month, the school board attended the NJSBA workshop. It's an annual workshop by the New Jersey School Board Association that is held in Atlantic City for 4 days, and it provides the Board of Education with a multitude of training opportunities, lots of different really great information for us, and you get to pick and choose based on what your area of interest is. So I was inviting all of the Board of Education to share out what we trained. I think it's really great for all of us to hear what other people were interested in, and for members of the public to hear what just a glimpse into some of the training opportunities that we were able to take advantage of, what we learned in those. So I was going to go ahead and start with Melissa.
Sure. I was fortunate to attend 2 days worth of sessions. The first session I attended was how to conduct a successful superintendent search. This was helpful because it really focused on the process and the 3 stages. One essential takeaway was how important communication is and how critical it'll be throughout the process. I also attended Are You Harvesting Your Data? This session talked about who should be at the table for data meetings, what assessment data we should be collecting, and how to manage all that information and how to effectively roll it out to our learning community, which I guess maybe why you invited me to be the chair of the data committee. I also had the opportunity to sit in on the Carly Lloyd's interview. She gave a lot of valuable insight from the various perspectives I have from being a board member, a parent with children in sports, to coaching, and as a teacher. I loved having the opportunity to listen to her words of encouragement, and overall I enjoyed my first experience at the school board workshop. So I'm looking forward to next year.
You want me to go? All right, so I was also able to attend a few days at the convention, and a few of the sessions that I got to were communicating before a referendum, and just learned a little bit about the process since we're getting ready to go into a bond referendum, and getting some tips on how to get them passed. I also did a session on branding, building powerful relations through brand identity, and another session on attracting and retaining great teachers. Both of those sessions and the presenters were great and provided a lot of insight on issues that we as a district are currently facing. And then I closed up my time there with the Carly Lloyd interview as well, and she was really great. Just encouraging us as board members that, we do make a difference in the lives of the children in our community. And again, looking forward to a fun week next year. Fun few days, not week, few days.
I focused mainly on sessions addressing ethics issues for Board of Ed members. Mainly those discussions were involving conflicts of interest, when board members have to recuse from certain discussions or votes, use of social media by board members, which is becoming a much larger problem year by year, as people have personal pages and the board, the district has pages that sometimes get implicated. We also discussed when it's appropriate to call the board solicitor
Always.
and when not to call the board solicitor to conserve funds for the district.
Key emphasis.
And the importance of having a process in place for determining when it is time to call for legal counsel. I also attended sessions regarding potential cost savings through shared services and effective communication and unconscious bias.
Mrs. Rhodes?
I focused on school security, safety, and the use of facilities. The school safety and security session I attended provided an opportunity to explore effective safety and security strategies to address a range of situations and scenarios. The session highlighted best practices and policies that should be in place, along with insight on the school district and the police department working together to make our schools a safe and secure environment for our staff and students. This is a team effort, and it should be treated as such. It's something that we do work well with in the Pitman School District. We do work well with our police department, so I think that we're in the right direction there. I was also able to attend the facilities use session, which focused on developing an awareness of risk and need for procedures and policies that protect students, staff, and the district. Areas discussed were cost, insurance, policies and procedures, and remembering student safety and excellent education is our priority over everything else.
I attended the state school board session. It was with New Jersey School Board, State Board of Education members. I'll get it there. President Kathy Goldenberg was there. Vice President Andrew Malville, and member Ronald Butcher and member Ned James Johnson were all there. So the New Jersey Board of Education is comprised of 13 members. They're appointed by the governor for 6-year terms, and they often continue to serve after their first term has expired. And they are a body that is, and the Commissioner of Education, Dr. Angelica Allen McMillan, she also stopped by the session as well. The student learning standards was really the hot topic, because that's obviously been what they've really made the papers for recently. And so it brought a lot of robust discussion. There were superintendents, school board members, business administrators that were in this session, and they spoke to some of the challenges with the New Jersey learning standards and the rollout and what was different this time with the rollout. There was one of the things that I was really unaware of was that there is typically a much longer period. Mrs. Moody's shaking her head because she's like, as the person carrying this boulder up this hill, it's, I guess, typically a much longer process that the district has to address how they're going to implement, or how their curriculum is going to meet those standards. And unfortunately, this process really shortened it to a pretty extreme degree. So it sounds like there were a lot of challenges that myself, even as a Board of Education member, were largely unaware of, that were different than other times that they've revised those standards. So admittedly, it's always one of those things when you're surrounded by peers that are operating in other districts, you hear some of the challenges they face, and I feel like we always kind of convene at the end of the night and feel very fortunate to be in our district and to have all of the talent and wonderful folks that we do doing the things that they do, because we don't really get to raise our hand and say, you wouldn't believe this scenario, or how should we have handled this? I also attended the legislative panel with Senate Majority Leader Teresa Ruiz, Senator Declan O'Scanlan, and Assemblyman Eric Simonson. A number of the items were discussed, but the state funding formula was something that was kind of heavily featured. This panel indicated that they believe there was bipartisan support for a lame duck effort to restore S2 funding. It would not, I should rephrase that, not restore it, in that we would receive funds as on the level we previously did, but there would be no further reduction. So I think that's something that, as a Board of Education and through the Gloucester County School Board Association, legislative relations, something that we kind of should keep an eye on. I think that we should just make sure that we continue to stay at the top of their list of concerns so that hopefully we do see those efforts kind of moving forward. And then there were some additional challenges that they discussed. A short budgeting cycle was one of the items that they discussed comparative to other states that have either a 2-year budget cycle or a longer lead time from when school districts are given their state aid to when their budgets are due. It's shocking the amount of time that from when districts, are made aware of what state aid they'll receive in a process that is not nearly as transparent as it's court ordered to be. Until when they have to deliver their budget. So that's just another example of one of those huge hurdles that we have in place, and how we can plan for our future without that information is just nearly impossible. And there was also some discussion on the school lunch program and the overall legislative action needed to support local education agencies. So I thought it was really interesting. It was fascinating to hear what is being discussed in their realm and what they think is important. Mrs. Papalardo, I'll turn it over to you.
Alrighty, so some of the sessions that I attended were communicating before a referendum, NJQSAC, Pathway to Success, starting the high school day later, lessons and outcomes, and school ethics, a review of recent cases. And of these, I found the one about starting the high school day later the most interesting, maybe because I have a high schooler myself, I don't know. But I said, being that we're a small district, it seems we're constantly looking at the start and end times of our schools to try and decide what's the best schedule and our approach. And the gentleman that was presenting was a superintendent from a larger district, which relies on buses. So their spin was a little bit different because obviously we don't rely on buses. But he said it was interesting. They've collected lots of data over the past year or two. And he said the changing of schedule of when students were reporting was a big undertaking, but when they looked at the data, it really did make a difference, especially for the older population of learners in their district. And it definitely got me thinking, what would that look like in our district? And would that be something that we might want to maybe consider? The data, and there was a ton of data, and I didn't actually write it down, but it was very interesting to see, even like for mental health and for student attendance. And they actually surveyed their students quite a bit just to even see how they felt about it. And there was a really positive reaction. So it was very interesting, something kind of different than a lot of the other ones that I attended. And I really enjoyed just kind of listening in and seeing, and some other districts had also shared, some people in the room had shared what their districts were doing. I also had the pleasure of hearing the featured speaker, Carly Lloyd. As some of you may know, she was born and raised right here in South Jersey. And she still does live here, actually, in Mount Laurel. And it was inspiring to hear her story about growing up and how she talked about great memories of having coaches and teachers who inspired and pushed her to be the player and person, that she now was and is today. And she really made it a point of pointing out that she's proud to say she's a product of the New Jersey public education system. And it was just nice to, hear her state that and know that there's so many kids that look up to her, and she's so well known. And she said she couldn't have done it without the teachers and the coaches and the people from, her district and her education system to be there and support her and cheer her on. So that was actually the last thing I attended before I left the convention, and I felt like it really left me feeling good about, the job that we're doing, and kind of reminded me how important it is, too.
Mr. Grossman?
I attended the Forum on Effective School District Communication, which was presented by Lloyd Perlow and the Haddon Township School District Superintendent. It was good. It was focused on effective and influential forms of communication and the need to have a communication policy in place, not just for daily or weekly newsletters, but also in emergency situations, and how you should have a plan in place as to how that message gets out and who the delivery point person of that communication system is, and ways to make mass mailers and emails more appealing and readable, and the need to be open and communicative with the public. I also attended the When Do You Call Your School Board Attorney? Got him on speed dial, baby.
Should take this person.
And with Rebecca, I attended it with, and actually found the session to be eye-opening, extremely informative, and just educational. Everyone knows every lawyer joke and idiom out there. But when you get down to brass tacks and understand the legalities of why and when and the timing of things, the session was invaluable in terms of the knowledge and impression I had walking into the seminar versus walking out, and the mindset of why those things are. Topics discussed included who should have access to the board attorney and why, cost-driven and common sense initiative, record keeping for when we do call the attorney. There should be a file somewhere. Except my calls, damn it. Flyers and Phillies and Sixers calls don't count.
Yours are on the house, bro.
But really, it drove home when and why the protections are afforded in knowing when to call the board attorney for counsel. Many scenarios were given, and there was a lot of good back and forth discussion with the presenter and the crowd. Details and the consequences range from the extreme to the minute, but the presentation and the back and forth really drove home the logic and reasoning behind getting an attorney involved and the protection versus the implications for not doing so could be severe. So it was very good.
That's a great message.
And I did not attend Carly Lloyd for obvious reasons.
So, next up on December 2nd, it's the biannual New Jersey School Board Association Delegate Assembly Session. It will be held from 9 to 2. It's usual, the meeting that's in person is at Mercer County College, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Or you can attend virtually. And this, I believe, is one of the steps for a certified, like one of the certifications, is that credit. Mr. Grossman is our Board of Education voting delegate. The NJSBA Delegate Assembly is where we set policies that determine the New Jersey School Board Association's position on educational issues. It establishes the bylaws for how we are governed, and it elects the NJSBA officers. So it's the state level version of, our NJSBA membership. We have one voting delegate that we select each year during reorganization, and the rest of us can attend as non-voting delegates. Sometimes there's items that they add on kind of at the end, and it creates a lot of discussion. Sometimes they're very formatted with just a lot of like operational details. And usually it wraps up before 2 o'clock. If anyone is interested, I'm currently registered to attend this one virtually. I may attend it in person. I'm on the fence, but we can always all carpool if anyone else would like to attend that. Mr. Grossman, you're good to go.
I think I registered virtually.
You registered virtually?
December 2nd.
Saturday. From 9 to 2, yep. But like I said, it usually wraps up sooner than that.
It doesn't usually run.
Yeah, past lunch. There's like a breakfast that you can get there early for. It is interesting to attend in person. Like, I do think it's really valuable, and there is that networking opportunity in the beginning of the day, but I think virtual's great too. It still would give you some good background for it. And then December 14th is our next NJSBA countywide meeting. There's an in-person and virtual option for that one as well. I am registered to attend that one in person, and I'd be happy to carpool. Ms. Poplar, are you going?
I've registered, yep.
Okay, you're good? Pardon?
What was the date of that?
December 14th.
Is that the one at Adelphia's?
Yes, that's the one at Adelphia's. It starts at 6 o'clock. Natalie will have you home by 8:20. Mrs. Pote has an early bedtime. So if you'd like to attend, let me know, and we'll make arrangements. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mrs. Papalardo. She wanted to bring the board up to date.
So everybody will be receiving an email in the next few days with a link to do our board self-assessment. It's something that we really should do every year, and it helps to give us an outlook for the coming year so we can kind of set some of our goals, make sure that we're moving in the right direction, help us be better organized. I've done it once. I think April has done it once. Dave, have you done it once?
No.
No, okay. I was gonna say, I think most of the board members might not have done it yet, so.
Did we do one last year?
I don't think we did one last year, no. Once I send you the link, if you click on and you're having any issues, just reach out and let me know. I would like to try and have it done sometime in the first week of December, just because I feel like if we let it go any further than that, December gets very crazy. And once all of us have responded, then Terry Lewis will send me all of the results, and then we can sit down and talk about it and kind of go over things that we think we do well, things we might want to work on or look at a little bit. It's just a really nice tool to kind of help guide us into the new year. We won't have any changing faces, but it's still good every year to kind of take a look back and then think forward about where you want to go from there. So keep an eye out for that, and I will try and let everybody know also by text. I'll text each of you to let you know I sent it. Keep an eye out for it.
And just to kind of piggyback off of Mrs. Papalardo's point, we will see all the same faces in January. So at the reorganization meeting, I just ask everyone to give some thought as to what committee you're currently serving on, if that's something that you enjoy, if there's another committee that you have an interest in. Mrs. Papalardo and I will sit down at some point and look through that feedback and see, if the committee structure is working for us and the structure that it currently exists in, if there's different ways, there's a ton of different ways that we can structure those committees and what they look like. Sometimes I think it's really helpful to be on different committees from year to year, depending on where you're at in your training and where your comfort level is, because I think it gives you just further insight as to the nuances of being a board member. So I would encourage you, if you feel like you kind of run sufficiently through this committee and you're interested in shifting over, to let us know, and we'll kind of work through that after we get our self-evaluation back. And that may be the longest president's report, Mr. Long, and I will turn it over to Mr. Crispin.
All right. Keep mine very short here. Just a couple items to bring to everybody's attention. Security drills are there for the board's review. I put down playground. I know playground's going to be reported in the Facilities and Finance Committee section, but the reason I put it down there, and I didn't even realize when I put it down there, I just want to bring to the board's attention something we may be discussing at the Facilities Committee meeting would be whether or not the board wants to name the playground. And again, I noticed in my note here, I named it Summit. I don't know why. I mean, it is the Summit Field, and that may be something the board may want to consider. It's not something you have to do necessarily, but sometimes if you don't, things take a name of their own, and maybe there are things you don't want. So I'll just kind of plant that seed, so we'll take a look at that at the committee level. Plans for Kindle walls, I had reported that in the notes that went out, I think either last week or this week, that we are moving forward in the conversations with different school districts. We know have Elk utilizing a significant amount of space over at Wall Schools, that annexed area, about 7 classrooms. They are starting very small. They, I think, are 100% underway now on a very small scale, and we'll be looking to build that capacity over the next year. We've had conversations, as I reported, with Washington Township about the potential use of the entire building at Kindle School. So that will be something we'll wait to see whether or not they get that additional funding and whether they're able to move forward with their plans. And then we will get together and kind of work out all those logistics. I'd also want to share that I received just this past week a couple more phone calls from just interested parties who were asking if we might have some space available. So that might be some conversations that we'll be moving forward with. And again, I'll keep the committee up to date as far as that is concerned. And last piece of that is we are also in the process of evaluating potential space for the moving of the administrative buildings, because we need to free up space at Memorial School so that we can expand our preschool program. So we just began that process today, and we will have a recommendation to present to the Facilities Committee for their review, and so that potentially we could start moving on this, so we would be out by the end of the school year, so that over the summer we can then begin the transition of what needs to happen at Memorial School, so we can recapture the space needed to be able to add that classroom. And the last thing, well, actually 2 things, but the last thing on the list here is the school transitions. I'd just like to continue to report things are going very smoothly. Hard to believe what it was 5 months ago, 4 months ago, middle of the summer. It's amazing. I think we're getting closer to that sense a little bit that it's become the new normal, but it's still going to take some time. We still have some bumps in the road that we're kind of working through. Things seem to be going very smoothly here at the high school with the addition of our 7th and 8th grades. And I think although maybe some of our challenges more from a facility perspective are at the elementary level, here it was more from a program perspective and making all this work. But at this level, it seems to be going very, very well. And students and staff, I think, really have adjusted. The only really transition, the last big transition we'll be making will be relative to the playground, because that's going to be a major transition. As we move, a lot of those activities are taking place during recess and starting those transitions, crossing the street, and all the logistics involved as far as that is concerned. That will probably be the last piece of the major transitions as far as the elementary is concerned. The other thing that was not on the list is just to announce, and I've shared it with the board, that we are planning an open house at the high school to highlight some of the programs that we have started. We had somebody from the state. I'll be providing this information to the board later in my weekly notes, talking about our 2 academies and visiting the school and making sure everything is going well and offering suggestions, and was very, very impressed with how things are going with the Business Academy and the STEAM Academy. So we were certainly going to highlight those, the possibilities of sharing some information about a Performing and Fine Arts Academy that we want to have in place for next year, as well as just the strong academic programs that we have throughout the school. So that will be a focus. We also want to kind of focus our efforts in how we communicate this information to our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders so that they know they have the opportunities that they would have here at Pitman High School. And that's it.
Thank you. All right, that's going to bring us to our Representative Mazzolla's report.
Thank you. So the senior high enjoyed the end of Spirit Week with the seniors coming out victorious. Student council sold and distributed boo grams for students to send lollipops to peers to celebrate Halloween. The Pitman Music Department also ran a fun trunk-or-treat event at Sunset Auditorium in which students from the music department sang, played their instrument, and danced while trick-or-treating took place. As of November 3rd, the boys and girls soccer team have both advanced further into the South Jersey Tournament quarterfinals, and the Panthers are proud of all the victories this season. Girls tennis, Abby Pagan, Jess Bretz, Kendall Bennett, and Amanda Bradley made it to the semifinals of the South Jersey Interscholastic Annual Tournament, and congratulations to Anna Fizicaro for placing second in the tournament overall. More congratulations are in order for the Pitman cross-country team at their sophomore and freshman meet, as all that participated medaled, with Jason Martin winning second place overall. Students in junior and senior high are excited to start a food drive competition for the month of November to get into the holiday spirit. National Honor Society acceptance letters have been sent out and students will be inducted on the 30th. Overall, the first marking period with the new configuration of the school has been going smoothly, and students are looking forward to the up-and-coming activities during the holidays.
Thank you. That is going to bring us to, so we have some new committees, just to give members of the public a little bit of background. We've had an ad hoc data committee in the past. We have reconvened that. It'll meet twice a year, and this year we kind of looked at some of our district goals to narrow in on what the focus will be. So our chairperson for that committee is Mrs. Farrell, and we also will begin the chief school administrator search process. So we have created an ad hoc committee as well, and the chairperson for that is Mrs. Bolton. So they'll continue to report out as needed. I think the data committee, you may hear from them this month, maybe next month, and if there's anything ongoing in the future, they'll add in, and the CSA committee kind of as needed as we work through those kind of stages. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mrs. Farrell.
The data committee, which consists of Mrs. Pope, Mrs. Miller, and myself, we're meeting this Friday, November 17th at 4 o'clock in the Memorial School Library. We will meet with Mr. Crispin and Mrs. Moody to further analyze our recent test scores and the math curriculum. Mrs. Moody has shared with us the comparisons of 3 potential elementary math programs along with some additional student data as it relates to Linkit and NJSLA. So we will all be taking the time to look at that, and I will report back at our next meeting with what we discuss.
All right, so in preparation for hiring a new CSA in the spring, the board has put together a CSA committee, which includes Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Farrell, and myself. The committee will organize the process and keep the rest of the board up to date on said process. On October 30th at 7:30, the committee had our first meeting at the high school, and again, in attendance were myself, Mrs. Farrell, and Mrs. Miller. We discussed the strategic plan survey results and went through some other info on how we would move forward and came up with some timelines. On the 9th, Mrs. Farrell and myself got together to create a survey for the teachers of our district to participate in. We wanted to make sure we had some feedback from staff on what type of leader would best suit our district. So then the other day on November 13th, Mrs. Miller and myself met with Mr. Crispin and Mrs. Rose just to go over the survey again to see if we needed to make any changes, come up with a timeline for that, and the staff survey should be ready to go in the next week or so, and we're off to a great start and just hopeful to get things going in the right direction so that we can best market ourselves to all the possible candidates out there.
Good, thank you. Brings us to Finance and Facilities. I'll turn it over to Committee Chairman, Mr. Grossman.
The Finance and Facility Committee met on Wednesday, November 8th, 2023 at 12:30 p.m. In attendance were Mr. Crispin, Mrs. Rose, Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Higbiona. Some of the items discussed included the elementary school playground and the delayed equipment. The equipment was ordered on June 7th with an anticipated arrival in August. The committee requested an updated location of the playground equipment for additional insight as to the ongoing delay. As you may have noticed driving by Summit Field, or the future Dave Grossman Field of Dreams, The equipment is in and the installation has begun. We are looking forward to seeing the completed playground in the near future for our students to enjoy. We discussed a rental agreement for walls and a potential rental agreement for next year for Kindle. The committee feels that our building have always served as a wonderful community asset, and we should explore ways to continue to allow groups to utilize them, so long as it is cost neutral to the district and aligns with our current policy and there is district personnel on site during the usage. The district must safeguard these resources with careful consideration to the requests that we receive and ensure that building usage adheres to our current standards. The committee also discussed the referendum and the Panther Club. With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve items 1 through 14 as written.
Any discussion? Mrs. Rose, would you like the resolution?
We
Would
can
you
just,
like me to?
we can discuss the resolution. There's a resolution on here. We will be amending our long-range facility plan for the closing of Wall School and Kindle School. That is a resolution that needs to go to the state so that we can amend our facilities plan. We do want to let the public know that is the closing for Pitman use, so our students, but we will, again, as we've stated, we are looking into the lease with Elk and possibly another school district. So those schools will still be utilized and also utilized, hopefully, by our community at night for maybe practices. So.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any discussion items? Mr. Crispin? Okay. Seeing none, Mrs. Rose, please call the vote.
Higby Iono,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Papalardo,
Yes.
Pote,
Yes.
Grossman,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Motion passed.
It's going to turn it over to Curriculum and Instruction Committee Chairwoman, Mrs. Papalardo.
The Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on Tuesday, November 7th at 4 o'clock. In attendance were Mr. Crispin, Mrs. Moody, Mrs. Rose, Mrs. Bolton, Mrs. Pote, and myself. And some of the items we discussed included the first meeting of community stakeholders for our Business Leadership and Finance Pathways program. They had their first meeting. They worked on a vision as well as a mission statement. And if any Board of Ed members or members of the public know someone who would be willing to present to either our STEAM or business academies, please reach out to Rebecca Moody. And the district is also looking for any local businesses who would be willing to give our students a chance to shadow with them. Again, you can contact Miss Rebecca Moody. We also talked about staffing challenges, including the need that we are now going to be down another district custodian, so we are looking to hire another one. We talked about that we will be approving a new office aide for Pitman Elementary School, as well as a new lunch recess aide. We talked about finding a long-term substitute for a speech and language position that will be upcoming. And we also talked about the struggle to have enough substitutes to fill open positions on any given day, and ways the district is trying to address the problem. And we also tried to brainstorm some additional ways to maybe incentivize coming and substituting in our district. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve items 2 to 29 as written.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Rose, please call the vote.
Second, Bolton.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. Now we can do it, right? Yes.
Higby Iono,
I need to abstain from item number 4 and yes to the others. 14, I'm sorry, not 4, 14.
Bolton,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Papalardo,
Yes.
Pote,
Yes.
Grossman,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. Brings us to Communication and Policy, and I'll turn it over to Committee Chairwoman, Mrs. Higby Iono.
The Communication and Policy Committee met on November 8th at 4:30 p.m. Present were Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Farrell, Mr. Crispin, Mrs. Rose, and myself. The committee is recommending approval of the second reading of the policies listed on the agenda. They're recommended by Strauss Esme to keep our district policies in compliance with the applicable statutes. I will now move to approve item 1 as written.
May I have a second?
Second, Farrell.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Rose, please call the vote.
Higby Iono,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Fablelaro,
Yes.
Coe,
Yes.
Grossman,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Motion's passed.
Thank you. It's going to go ahead and bring us to our second public hearing. Second public comment, please state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. To be recognized to speak, please stand behind the podium located here to my left.
Hi, Amy Reed, 117 Magnolia in Pitman. It's great news to hear that the legislative committee is potentially not moving forward with the 5th year of funding cuts. And I apologize, I'm doing my best to follow all the funding issues that have happened. But if I'm remembering correctly from last year, part of the funding that was cut from S2, there was like additional state aid to offset that funding. And so we received some of that money back, essentially. So my question is, will that additional funding, that additional state aid, be renewed this year? Or is there the possibility that we are going to be considering additional cuts even if S2 is not fully enacted? Does that question make sense? So that is my question, not comment.
So I would just speak to 3732, which restored about 2/3 of the funding. We don't know. That's not something that we could really nail them down. First, it's 3 members. So, they could stand in front of all of us who have faced those challenges and tell us like, yeah, we're definitely taking care of this for you guys, and it not translate to what we need. The impression that I left that legislative assembly with is that that you would receive no less funding than you did last year. So then in that standard, I would say that what was reflected by 3732 would be included in what we would anticipate for state aid. But I do think that, we have to wait to see if it actually happens. I wouldn't count those pennies before they arrive. But I really think it's just a challenge for us to navigate with such a limited time frame from now until the end of this lame duck session. I don't know that it will really have a good indication until the dust settles.
Thank you.
That's my 2 cents. I just want to add that.
Can I add to
Please.
that? So yes, just everything that April indicated. But just to clarify, the additional funding that we received last year, that was additional funding, not necessarily state aid, so it means it was a one-time funding source. We have used those monies to fund, I think, around 5 positions. So given everything that April just said, let's hypothetically say that aid remains status quo, we would still have a reduction of some sort because we're not getting that additional funding again, because we would not have the funds to be able to support those additional positions. So there might have to be some reductions in staff due to the fact that we do have some one-time funding resources, i.e. that additional funding that was used in this year's budget that will not be there next year.
Okay, thank you.
Would anyone else like to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, do we have any old business? New business?
I do want to just make a comment. We sent a survey out for Panther Club. December 22nd is a short day for both students and staff members. We sent a survey out through Bright Wheel to all Panther Club attendees to see who would utilize that day. In the past, we have seen that there was, by 4 or 5 o'clock, we didn't have anybody there, maybe one student. So we have decided, the calendars were sent today, that we will be closing Panther Club at 5 o'clock on December 22nd. So we will be closing 1 hour earlier than we normally do on a normal day, which is 6 o'clock. So we decided 5 o'clock based off of that survey. We saw that it may only be about 1 student there. So we were hoping that with a month and a half notice, it was sufficient time. If not, if you can always email me, and I'd be happy to discuss that with you.
And I actually do just want to add one more additional item for new business. we will have that survey out hopefully by the end of the week to all of our teachers, and we really would love your honest feedback. We made it anonymous so that we're not looking at responses. We're really interested in hearing what all of our teachers and staff members have to say and what qualities they're looking for and what skill sets they think that our future superintendent candidate should possess, so that when we're evaluating and making that hiring decision, we're doing so mindful of what their experience is and what their needs are. So, like I said, hopefully that goes out by the end of this week, and we really would like everyone to participate because we are very interested in the responses. So I do believe we have to go back into executive session. We will not be taking action.
It's coming back out to
I'd say
Right.
we may.
We may take
We
action,
may, yes.
like formal board action.
May, yes. Just a may.
Okay. Okay. May I have, so we'll be going into executive session to discuss personnel, legal, and student matter. All with commas in between those. I don't think that was very clear. And so may I have a motion to go into executive, please?
So moved. Abelardo.
And may I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
There were a couple topics that I had waiting.
May I have a motion to return to public?
So moved, Grossman.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
I would like to walk on a motion to amend item number 17 in curriculum and instruction to have the employees' hours be up to 29 hours at administrator discretion. May I have a second? And Mrs. Rose, just typing as fast as little fingers can move. When you have an opportunity, please call roll.
Yes. Higby Iono.
Yes.
Bolton.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
Papalardo.
Yes.
Pope.
Yes.
Grossman.
Certainly.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Papalardo.
Second, Grossman.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the next Pitman Public School Board of Education meeting is December 6th, 13th.
Is this, you have a retreat.